Go for liftoff in T-30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.
Hey, thanks for stopping by Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. It is time for another episode of TC and Friends Monday Night Musings. I've got Kristin, KSOK from Right American Media coming on. She is verbal. She is sharp. She is intelligent and witty. And she is not to be trifled with. I'll tell you that right now. But we will be staying away from one particular topic because both Kristin and I have had some censorship issues from the great YouTube gods above or below, however you want to say it. They have decided that they will not allow us to talk about certain things that have to do with a certain type of thing that might have happened in November of 2020, say like around the 3rd or the 4th of November of 2020. And they will take that stuff down. So we're going to stay away from that topic for a little while until they get tired of shadow banning and flagging people for that. As you know, I had Eric Van Mechelen on last week, and great conversation. That video made it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 5 days, and they took it down. So here we sit. So like I said, Kristin will be coming on in a little bit. She had some errands to run and some things she needed to do, and she is working on getting in here right now. But in the meantime, if you guys haven't, make sure you're checking out the coffee. Still got the coffee. You guys need to try this. If you haven't tried it yet, you are crazy. It is literally the best coffee you will ever have, the best tasting coffee you will ever have. No, I don't have it in bean form. But the thing about this blend, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, the thing about this blend is for it to capture the essence of the entire blend, you want the beans pre-roasted and pre-ground so that the blend is perfect. Coffee beans, I have been doing some reading. Coffee beans have a tendency when you have a mix of beans, certain beans will go to the top and some to the middle and some to the bottom. And if you're not keeping that in mind as you're grinding and blending your own, you're going to lose some of the flavors. So that's why this coffee is not going to be available in bean form as much as you guys might like it and want to grind your own. Give it a shot. You can message me on Facebook, TC Pearson. You can send me an email at tcpearson@protonmail.com and ask me how much for the coffee and for shipping. I got shipping pretty much nailed down here in the United States. Got lots of really nice merchandise, by the way. Love these mugs. Have some friends that have recently purchased these. They like them. I got a few people that prefer this particular mug. This one is very nice as well. And I've got tumblers and I've got shot glasses. So this is the most popular shot glass so far. Okay, so far most popular of the shot glasses. It's a stainless steel, black powdered on the outside and then laser etched. I have actually watched the process. These, however, are incredibly cool, and I think it goes in line with the theme of my channel, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. You can see that right there. This is a stainless steel shot glass with a leather etched cover on it. Kristin is off in the green room waiting to come in, so I have to hurry through this. So she did not know we were going live, so she thought we were pre-recording, and like, no, I do very little pre-recording anymore. So when I bring her in, she'll have to chastise me soundly. Anyway, and also head over to my Subscribe Star if you guys haven't done that yet. I would really appreciate the support. Everybody is experiencing an incredibly high amount of pressure financially right now. So when I ask, I know what I'm asking. But trust me, as much as I have sacrificed over the last couple of years with having been forced out of my career in law enforcement because of my content, I have taken a massive pay cut. I am not making anywhere near what I was making before, which is why I had a friend reach out to me and said, you really need to get on Subscribestar because your content's worth the support. So if you would head over to Subscribestar Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. I mean, the entry level to be a Patriot supporter of the channel is only $3 a month. And most of you are throwing that away in milk going bad because you buy way too much because you see it on sale and then you let it sit in your fridge until it turns into cottage cheese and you can't drink it anyway. So TC would appreciate it if you would support. And if you can't do that, or if you choose not to do that, while we're streaming, you can do a super chat. Ask the most ridiculous, asinine question you want, and I will make sure that Kristin is the one that has to answer it. So, however ridiculous it is, you ask it with a super chat, and I will make her answer it because I've seen her in action, and she is not slow. She will come up with a very good answer. And if you're watching this in playback, there is now a thing called super thank you. So while you're watching in playback, if you want to support the work that I'm doing here, and we've got some really good stuff coming out, you can hit a super thank you, and that'll encourage me to keep putting out really good content, because without super thank yous, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say no. Well, hey, Jacob, thank you very much. I got a super. That's more than $1, Jacob. That's $1.99. Thank you very much, Jacob. I appreciate that. And I haven't gotten to the good content yet. So before I bring Kristin in real quick, make sure you head over the description to the video, or the link to her channel on YouTube is in the description of this video. And her content is phenomenal. She's got a lot more followers than I do, so maybe I'm clout chasing here. I don't know. But she does have great content over there. Make sure you check it out. Check her out on Right America Media. We'll talk about that a little bit more. She'll tell you when her shows show on Right America Media. Juan does a great job with RAM. It is a phenomenal network, and he streams to dozens of platforms. And that's where I co-host Veterination with Mike Skipper Arthur. Be looking in that compilation project that I've been doing with Skipper, part 2 of the video about the USS Liberty that was attacked by the Israelis during the Six-Day War. Part 2 will be coming out sometime this week as I have time to sit down and edit it. And so, without any further ado, I was stalling so Kristin could get here. Kristin, thank you for doing it.
It's true. It's true. Hey, if I knew we were going live, I wouldn't have brought my dog to the vet. I would have told them to pound sand, and I would have.
Oh gosh, no. This is Monday Night Musings. It's supposed to be laid back and fun. I may or may not be drinking a keto-friendly alcoholic adult beverage. So.
Ooh, exciting! Are you doing keto right now?
I have been doing a modified keto for the last 4 years.
Okay.
And intermittent fasting. So I'm about half the man I was 4 years ago. I weighed about 300 pounds 4 years ago.
Oh, so. Wow. Okay. Awesome job.
Well, thanks. Kristin and I are on the same network for, I'm co-host Veterination on RAM, and Kristin co-hosts KSOK Uncensored on RAM, but we've never actually done a show together. So right. This is a first for us. This is our first time actually.
Host, no co.
Yeah, no, yeah. There is no room on that show for another personality.
I agree. And I'm going to CPAC with RAM, and there's going to be like 9 women in one house. And I told Juan, I was like, is this a good idea or a bad idea?
I want to know how you got the invite and I didn't.
I don't know. This is the 3rd time he's asked me to go. And I've never been able to go. And so he basically told me 6 months ago, this is non-negotiable, that I had to go. Otherwise, he's going to kick me out. So, I mean, I don't know if that's true, but but anyways, yeah.
Oh, I'm bringing this up on Veterination tomorrow. You just wait.
Okay, do it. Yeah, call him out.
Call him up.
But anyways, yeah, I'm a little worried about sharing a house with 9 other women.
That would worry me.
Well, it's mainly because like I want to make sure I get a shower in. I want to make sure I can put my face on, makeup, right? So like that kind of stuff. But other than that, I can plan.
Who else so are they all Ram gals?
Yes. Yep. And then I'm bringing
So is
one of my
that's the
friends.
entire complement of females on Ram?
It's pretty much. I would like some dude energy filtered in. But it seems like it's all
I'm
chicks.
definitely filing a complaint with HR for Ram.
Yeah, a harassment or no, like more like a discrimination situation.
Yeah, it's discrimination. Juan doesn't, when Juan watches this, if he does, Kristen, you know, just admit this. We all know that why Juan didn't want me there. He didn't want to be dwarfed by my stellar good looks.
That's, you know what? There's probably some truth in that. Juan's like, I just want my entourage situation.
He's going to look good walking in with all of you. I'm seeing Juan in like a 70s disco suit right now, and all of you in sequin dresses. So,
oh my gosh. Maybe.
So,
I am bringing a red sequin dress. So that is funny that you say that. But
I don't know why I even brought it up.
That's funny.
Hey, Judson, thanks for stopping in, by the way. And Jacob, thanks for the super chat one more time. And thanks for stopping in as well. Make sure you're sharing this out, folks, because Kristen's got a lot of... We talked briefly about what we were going to talk about when we decided to stay away from one particular subject because we both have gotten warning strikes on our channels for that here recently.
Yeah.
For some reason, as we come up to another election, they don't want us talking about a particular subject. I don't know what it could possibly be. But you cover I don't want to say in a dismissive way, because it's not meant to be at all, but you kind of cover all of the conservative tropes out there, and you cover them in a very energetic way. But how long have you been doing this, and has this always been how you thought?
Yeah. So I will say I've been a lifelong conservative. It's just kind of in my blood. My grandma was the Republican women's president for the state of Washington. So that's always been there. But and my values have always remained the same. But I've been doing this for a little over 2 years. So June of 2020, I'm here in Portland, Oregon. So we just got walloped, if not the worst in the country outside of Minneapolis. And being married to a Portland police officer, I was really angry at how he was being treated and the lack of support and the division that was being created. And I felt very isolated and alone. And so I did a rant and posted it on TikTok. I wasn't a creator or anything. I just at random posted this rant because I just needed to get it off my chest. And it went viral. And I immediately connected with so many like-minded people. And it was like therapeutic for me. And so I continued posting the news, mainly about the Northwest and everything that was happening. And then I expanded to the nation. And it's just been, the rest is history. It's just grown. And so it's just been an incredible journey.
The similarities between us are actually pretty interesting, because I launched my channel on April 25th of 2020. I had been talking about everything that I saw coming for years and so, because I know you don't know that much about me, I shared my channel with you just to, warn you in case that was too dangerous for you.
No.
But I had been warning I worked on the detention end of law enforcement in the third largest metro area in the state of Minnesota. And I had been warning people that I work with for years. I'm like, hey, this is coming. This is the kind of stuff that's going to, come, check out Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. Check out, and I just went through a list of supposedly fiction books that were, some of them were actually written from the perspective of progressives and leftists, and kind of their ideals and their ideologies lived out to the extent of what they saw as perfection, but you could still see the dangers in them. And I had been reading this stuff and studying it, and I started to warn people. And of course, I was the radical weirdo, that everybody's like, hey, where's your tinfoil hat?
Yeah.
And so in April of 2020, I got up one morning decided I was going to go to a Reopen Minnesota protest, and I launched the channel and took my GoPro and went out and started recording man on the street interviews. And all of a sudden I started getting traction.
Right.
And, not quite what you have. I don't even think you're like at 13,000 subscribers or something. So you've got a massive following, and you did it in less time than I did. I'm jealous. But anyway, I in the midst of all of that also went through the George Floyd scenario.
Yes.
In a much more personal way, in that it was hitting home for us in the Rochester, Minnesota area, home of the Mayo Clinic, as everybody in Rochester, because Rochester at one time was a very red city, is now incredibly progressive, very left wing, which of course is what happens anytime, metro areas expand, they start to go left. And the mayor of Rochester, on the night of one of the riots, to the rioters, stood on the steps of the law enforcement center and said, "It's time that minorities in Rochester and Olmsted County feel safe in the hands of law enforcement again." And I'm like name a time when we've had a law enforcement involved fatal shooting, period. It had been years, but let alone a minority. And it's not like there aren't minorities in the area.
Right.
And I had done some commentary about that, but instead of catching fire like you did, I caught flack from the chief deputy and was warned.
I can imagine.
And there again, I never had identified myself as a deputy, never identified where I worked with any of my content. Unbeknownst to me, that had launched a massive attack on me.
Wow.
And that kept me in their eyesight. So there are a lot of parallels in our story, which there again, I wasn't aware of the fact that your husband is in that line of work. It's a tough line of work for somebody to be in still to this day, because the good cops, I'm working on a series right now, how you define define a good cop.
Right.
Because I think a lot of times we define good cop based off of what we know bad cops are. And if all it takes to not be a bad, or to be a good cop, is to not be a bad cop, then you're probably not doing your job very well.
Right, exactly.
And so I started to do a series on that, because what I have watched is that predominantly most supportive group of people who had been on the side of law enforcement, sometimes to a fault, are now kind of walking away from being overly supportive because of what has happened over the last 2 years. Because what we have seen is, and I'm, excluding people that you love and care for, I'm sure it's not the case, but we've seen a lot of people in law enforcement have been all on board with enforcing all of these draconian measures, especially if they're in the law enforcement community in a blue state, because the writing's on the wall. You either get along or you're done, as I know.
Exactly. Well, my husband knows I'll divorce his ass if he ever tried to arrest someone for a mandate, and he would never. That's just not the guy I married.
Right, but you wouldn't have married a guy like that.
Hell no. And I see it all the time, and I'll be the first person to call out an oath breaker. So, and we see it here locally, and that's been, I've been heavily involved in Southwest Washington, for those that are familiar, Vancouver, Washington's primaries, and the sheriff is, the big primary that we've been focusing on. And so, there's one that's definitely more constitutionally driven, and then there's another that's just more of the same, the old school. And it's really interesting. It's really interesting to watch, and people don't realize how important a sheriff is, like an elected law enforcement, right? Like everyone
top
else
cop in your county. He's the top cop.
Yes.
He's the top cop in your county.
Exactly. So it can make or break the experience for people who reside in that area. And so I've had 2 out of 3 of the candidates on my podcast. The third is coming on. And it's just been really incredible. So, and that's been something that we are incredibly hyper vigilant on, is asking, in these scenarios, how did you respond, and how do you plan on responding? Because we all know that these mandates, they're coming back. I mean, they're starting to come back already here.
Right.
So
Los Angeles. And just so you know, on my show, for the sake of YouTube, we don't refer to the virus by name. We call it the COOF, COFF. the coof.
Nice.
And they haven't caught on yet. So, but
nice work.
LA County, LA City, California as a whole, our numbers are spiking. The coof is coming up. We're going to have to start putting mask dates back in place.
Same in Portland.
And we're starting to hear it here in Minnesota too, because Minnesota is nothing more than a combination of California and Portland and Oregon.
Yeah.
In the Midwest. That's all it is. Literally, we are the bluest state in a sea of red that you can imagine. And they want to lock us down. And I can't imagine why. I cannot imagine what could possibly be driving that, other than the fear that something might happen in November this year.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Oh boy, I know.
How much, I mean, so you always have been a conservative, but a lot of people are, I'm a conservative. I've always been a conservative, and that's great. I'm not, I'm not doubting your creds at all. But there is a reality in which a lot of people are conservative, but they really don't know what that means for them personally. How much of an eye-opener was it for you in June of 2020 when you started speaking out, and how much knowledge do you think you actually had as opposed to what you have now, and how much of a learning curve did you have to go through?
Huge. And I even go back to like 2015 when Trump announced he was running, and then started just really shedding light on fake news, right? All of these things, it really shows me how much of a la land I was living in. I always had my beliefs and my opinions and my views, but I didn't realize how incredibly crooked the government is, and pure evil, really, in a lot of ways. So going back to 2020 though, oh my goodness, I mean, they had me for a few weeks on the coof, but then I started waking up and realizing it was a power play. And then started digging in. And once you start digging in, you can't unsee or unread what you've uncovered. And then you can't help, especially someone with a, personality like mine or yours, I would assume, you can't not.
I have no idea what you're talking about. None.
We have to tell people. It's like, it's one of those things. You can't just know all of this and not spread the word and not try to at least wake people up. So it's been an incredible eye-opener. I would say, just being completely transparent, I was quite naive 2 years ago, and have just spent the past 2 years just really obtaining an incredible amount of knowledge. I'm drinking from a fire hose, and I can't get to everything. I'm not the expert on everything. I can't get to everything, but I know so much more, and I will never go back to being asleep.
Yeah, well, once you're awakened, it's really hard to notice I said awakened.
Yeah.
And it's funny because one of the topics we've discussed talking about is the weak-kneed nature of Republicans, supposed conservatives.
Right.
And I have a friend who is great. He's a great friend. He's willing to push back when there needs to be pushback. But one of our biggest sources of contention is the idea of continuing to hold our noses and vote for Republicans because, gosh darn it, only the Republicans can win, and we need to get rid of the Democrats at all cost. And this friend, and if he ends up watching, and I'll hear about it tomorrow if he does, or in the next few days when he finally gets time to set aside time to watch his friend. One of the things that he tells me is like, you're coming at this so hard right now. You're going to turn more people away. And my response to him has been, in particular today in our conversation, was, I'm done playing nice.
Yeah.
I'm really, what do people over the last 2 years, what wasn't enough for them to sit up and not only take notice, but say, I've had it. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm to the point where people need to be kind of slapped around with the truth.
Absolutely.
And
I may be so bold. He is
absolutely.
The reason we're in the situation we're in today. People like him are the reason we're in the situation we're in today. Conservatives have taken a back seat. We've been nice and quiet and sat in a corner, while the Democrats have done, or liberals or whatever, has done the complete opposite. and they have been incredibly effective at it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to be godlike, right? I mean, that's what I hear all the time. I want to be Christ-like and not poke the bear. I'm like, you know what? God or Jesus, he was the biggest disruptor known to man. Knock it off.
Not the way the leftists try to
no
co-opt him, but in very much a rocking the boat against the establishment.
Right.
And
shake it up.
Right. And calling them out for their hypocrisy.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what I said. And I've said that not just to him, to many, many others, is that areas like, well, we have to keep voting for the Republicans because we can't let the Democrats in. And my answer is when we vote for the Republicans as they are right now, we end up losing. We won't win, but we lose because this weak-kneed, panty-waisted, milquetoast version of republicanism right now is only interested in playing tennis and golf with the Democrats because they want to be on the inside. They want to be part of the in crowd.
Just look at Bush. Just look at Bush. I have zero respect for that entire family.
Yeah, either one of them, and Dad was better than Junior.
Right.
Marginally.
Yeah.
And I think one of the, and I might lose you here. You might have like connection problems when I say this, so I don't. But I'm over the supposed populist support for Trump in the sense that you can't name anything that he did wrong without people saying, "Oh, you hate him." I'm like, no, that's not the case. He made some bad decisions, and their answer, well, that's because of his advisors. Well, okay. But where do you hold somebody accountable if your answer is always, well, those were his advisors, those were the people he had around him? Like he chose those people.
Right.
He chose those people. So if you've got somebody, and I brought this up today, we have Bolton on CNN with Jake Tapper trying to defend Trump, saying like he wasn't trying to cause a coup. He wasn't trying to, and I don't believe he was. He wasn't trying to cause a coup on J6. He wasn't trying to cause an insurrection on J6. He just said some stupid stuff and then incited some people. And trust me, and this is Bolton, and I'm paraphrasing, I've orchestrated coups across the world. I know how coups are supposed to be done. That's not how you have a coup. And I'm sitting here going, this was his national security advisor. And then everybody wants to say he was an outsider.
Yeah. No, I completely, there's validity to what you're saying. I mean, I was an absolute huge Trump supporter. I still think
I voted for him the second go around.
I think he's done so much for the country, but I also feel like like any leader, he made mistakes, and I think his ego got in the way a few times, if not a handful. So, and that's just the reality of it. And so no, my connection's still good. I get it. I see where you're coming from.
I just didn't want our first interaction. Notice I said first, our first time doing this together. I didn't want it to be like, yeah, well, I'm never talking to him again.
Nah. It takes a lot more than that. Scare me off.
So do you see a problem in conservatism where conservatives do tend to flock to the Republican Party?
Right.
And I understand why, but do you see a problem in that we do keep doing the compromise things and the Republicans, the rhinos, if you listen to guys like Tom Woods and others who are definitely constitutional originalist libertarians, the conservative Mises Caucus style libertarians, refer to them as neocons, which I think guys like Bill Kristol are definitely neocons. I have no problem with that. I'll call them out for it. But do you think the neocons or the rhinos in the Republican Party know that the genuine conservative base feels like they don't have anywhere else to go? So they'll kind of throw a few, treats our way, knowing we're going to vote for them, while they know that no matter what we do, they're going to still compromise with the left.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you think they know that and they're counting on that?
Absolutely. They sure are. And so that's why there needs to be a huge upset come November of people that have woken up to that. I mean, we really need to, as a nation, we really need to pay more attention to the grassroots candidates. And I mean, just in Oregon through the primaries, I was campaigning hard with Mark Thielman, who is a grassroots candidate. The problem is in the state of Oregon, there were 19 grassroots candidates just on the GOP ticket. And so it was just completely out of control and very
That's
difficult.
encouraging, though, at the same time.
It is encouraging
in Oregon. That's massive.
It is. But what happened is the rhino, who is already in a political position in the state of Oregon, she had the deep pocket funding and was able.
She had the party money behind her.
Exactly. And so
we're seeing the same thing here.
She's the only one we saw on TV. She's the only one who's had the massive signs, right? And so that's who got 50% of the vote, of the voter turnout.
Kristin, I'll tell you something. We saw this, so I have intentionally stayed out of the Republican Party for years. I was a co-vice chair in my county years ago, and I got out when I saw things going south. I had life to live, and I just wasn't going to wrap myself up in it. Mm-hmm. But since 2020, I have stayed out of the game, so to speak, because I wanted to be able to speak to issues without feeling beholden to a party.
Right.
And I showed up to the Minnesota GOP convention in Rochester, 30 miles north of me, on its second day, and was trying to get in as media, and they wanted me to pay for a guest pass and all this stuff. And finally, one of the gubernatorial campaigns came out and said, "Hey, TC, we'd love to have you come in." And I'm like, "Well, are you asking me to cover just you?" "No, we want you in. We want you on the floor because we know you're going to catch things that other people won't report on."
Yeah.
And I was there and I watched, and I saw it. I saw it. The old guard in the Minnesota GOP hammered home, when we endorse a candidate, we have to go with this endorsement. We have to take these endorsements. We have to make sure that we're standing behind the endorsed candidate for governor, the endorsed candidate for attorney general, the endorsed candidate for, and they just went down the line. But at the same time, here in Minnesota, we have endorsed grassroots, genuine constitutional originalist candidates all over the state of Minnesota. First time involved in politics, first time running for office, having now been endorsed by their county party, being rejected by the state level, saying we're not going to send you money and we're actually going to primary you with these other rhinos. And it's the same thing. It's as long as they're willing to compromise, as long as they're willing to bend, as long as they're willing to play nice with the left.
Yeah.
Because, we can't go in there and not cooperate. If we don't cooperate, nothing will get done. And from my perspective, I'd love to get a bunch of people in the Republican Party who don't want to cooperate, because then we could shut down government, which would be better for everybody.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I would say in this day and age, it's not a compliment to be financially backed by the GOP. It should be concerning for voters, and voters need to pay more attention to that, but they're not. That's the problem. More and more are.
So you're seeing it in Oregon then too?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And so we're in a position for the gubernatorial candidate. We're in a position where we have a very far, far, far left person, just way off the charts leftist for the Democratic Party. And then we have
what did they nominate Ted Wheeler?
Yeah, no, Ted Wheeler, he's a pushover. So he's like a puss. So no, he's mild compared to this woman. It's Tina, I can't think of her last name, reminds me of a Kotek, Tina Kotek. So she's the one that they've nominated.
Only on my channel, folks.
Betsy Johnson for the Independent, and then we have Christine Drazen for the Conservative. Again, she's the rhino. And then we have Betsy Johnson for the Independent. The problem is, and I see a lot of conservatives here, they're going to vote for Betsy Johnson. But the problem with that is now we've just split our vote. And so what's going to happen, I can just almost bet on this, is we're going to see Tina Kotek get it, because we have just split our conservative vote. And that's what we do wrong. And that's what the Democratic Party does right. They stick together. and we're eating our own.
Let me ask this. You made a local friend of mine laugh. She said Kotex. That makes sense.
Yeah, seriously.
That would be my friend Sarah.
Nice.
Let me ask this, because some of the pushback that I'm getting from some local friends here is, well, you want us to vote for somebody that doesn't have a chance of winning,
Right.
and okay, let's go with that. Sure, I'm tending to lean far more I don't want to say traditional, far more constitutional originalist libertarian here in Minnesota, because the Republican Party has abandoned me. But the argument's often made that we have to vote for the person that can win. And by your estimation, that might sound like a plausible strategy or tactic.
Right.
But is it enough anymore to just vote for the person that has the name recognition and can win? Because there again, I think what we see happening there again, the Bush,
Yeah.
the Bush
Well,
regimes,
yeah.
and even to some degree on local levels, a lot of times you get governors that have name recognition, and you
Right.
vote for them, and they don't accomplish what you think they're going to accomplish. But boy,
Right.
they sure have the neocon, normie con creds of being
Right.
a conservative, but they don't get anything done. Do you think there is a place for traditional conservatives, paleo conservatives, and others to start taking a step back and start to feasibly look at third parties and say, I'm going to start supporting this person who is a constitutional originalist in another party?
Okay.
And because at least it's going to get them some traction. And maybe what our state needs right now is to just be completely thrown to the dogs so that people will continue to wake up.
Right.
Because that's kind of, I'm a little black-pilled, Kristen. I'm kind of like, let it fall, let it burn down, because I'll go to whatever state decides to secede.
Right. No, I get it. Okay, so here's where I'm at, and because it's an interesting one to follow Oregon and see what happens through general. But I would say, going back, what people really need to do is get more involved, especially in states with closed primaries like Oregon. Get more involved in the primaries, because if you can really make an impact in the primaries, then your general, you have a lot more chance at being successful and getting the right person through the general. The problem is we had a very, very tiny, I believe it was 11% turnout for our primaries. So what happened was all these wonderful grassroots candidates, including the one that I was supporting, they didn't have a shot in hell, because there was a teeny voter turnout for the primaries, except for one way
and
to
it
the general.
and it almost always goes to the established candidate.
Exactly. So people need to wake up and get involved in the primaries and realize that you need to vote in the primaries. It's a big deal. Otherwise, you are going to continue to see that GOP backed or that establishment backed person right there. So we could have had an uproar if we had more voter turnout for these grassroots candidates. And so that's one thing. But yeah, I do see concern. At this point in the state of Oregon, we're looking at the lesser of two evils, because we have a rhino and then we have a raging liberal. So I'm going to vote for the rhino over the raging liberal, knowing that this person is a rhino and doesn't fully stand for what I stand for, but the other person is like far left psychotic, and I'm not going to do that. And
You don't have to say far left psychotic. You can just pick one or the other.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's all, but yeah. So it is difficult if we're gonna, like, for the people that are gonna vote for the independent, Betsy Johnson, they are. I hate to say it, but they're ensuring the win for the left. We'll see. I could put money on that, though.
So let me push on you on a little bit on this one. So let's just say that's the case, that at the gubernatorial level, they're guaranteeing a hard leftist gets in as governor. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But what about taking these grassroots candidates at that grassroots level, and instead of focusing on taking the governor's mansion or the Secretary of State or whatever the case might be, what if we took these grassroots candidates, ran them as independents, ran them as Mises Caucus libertarians or whatever, the Dave Smith types, the I've got Monica Perez coming on. She's very much a libertarian. Clearly has some Mises style thought process to her. But what if we take candidates in that vein who are maybe libertarian or maybe paleocons, run them more as independents? Because, everybody knows at the city council level, the county commission level, you're not really running as a Republican or a Democrat, or a sheriff's not running as a Republican or a Democrat. But you take these people, you run them at these very local, very grassroots, very rooted levels, and we start to get them the name recognition by putting them in at that local municipal level, local county level, and build them up so that now the next go around, they do have the name recognition, and we can run, whether they're the third party or as a traditional conservative and the GOP ticket. Because I think for me, what I'm seeing is everybody's like, we got to put the name recognition up there so we can take the governorship. And ultimately, if you take the governorship, but the House and the Senate go to, in the case of bicameral legislation, Nebraska is unicameral. It's the only one in the country. But let's say you go to these bicameral legislators or legislations. I don't know.
I got you.
Bicameral. Anyway, and so you have a governor who's maybe conservative, but maybe the House and the Senate aren't. The governor's hands are tied. He's not going to get anything done. She's not going to get anything done. But if we can establish people who are about nullification at the local level, sheriffs who say, I'm not enforcing these, city councils and mayors and county commissions, it's like, we're not getting on board with this. I say, run these people who are third party, if you will, but have our values at that level, because that shuts down everything. It takes the governor out of the equation. And if the feds step in and say, no, you're going to enforce this, you get a Sheriff Mack style person. I don't know if you know who Sheriff Mack is, but you get a Sheriff Mack style person, and he's like, well, you could try, but we're going to arrest you if you come into our town.
Yeah. Is that the Florida sheriff?
No, he was an Arizona sheriff years ago. I think he lives in Texas now, and he fought the ATF, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and I think the FBI. I had him on for an interview a couple of years ago.
Awesome.
But he fought the BATF on the Brady bill when it passed into law, and they said, well, we need you sheriffs are enforcers here in the state of Arizona. And Sheriff Mack gave him the middle finger and said, I'm not enforcing this. It's unconstitutional. Good. Took it to the Supreme Court and won.
Good. Yeah, we need more of that.
And that to me is more important than whether or not we even take the White House or the governorships.
Right. No, I agree with you. So to go back to that, yes, I absolutely agree that we can get these third party grassroots folks the name recognition. We need to give them money, because I don't think enough conservatives really realize that we need to donate. If you want somebody, like so I don't know if you know this, but right now, so I work for two different politicians, and I'm going to work through, with them through the general, which is in November. But so I'm really learning just an absolute ton. And one of the main things I'm learning is how much a brochure cost, how much a sign cost. And you can't just, you need donations to get this name recognition. Yep. But what we're seeing is a lull. And I know, like you were talking about earlier, money is incredibly tight for everybody. But like you also said, even in one thing that came to mind, maybe don't get your Starbucks coffee or your coffee. You know what I mean? Like there is fat that we can trim. And what a better place to spend it is to.
You could have your coffee and enjoy it too if you order my own.
Yeah, you're like, I have coffee.
Not only would you still get coffee, you'd still be supporting me and a bunch of veterans.
There you go. Do that. But what I'm saying, we need to donate. If you want a grassroots person, they don't have deep pockets. They're not getting establishment money, and a lot of them don't want it. They want to have these individual donors. You have to open your wallets. You have to donate to them, because if you don't, they are not going to get the name recognition they need.
So what do you say to the person that says, well, I'm not giving money to somebody that can't win?
Yeah, that person, I wouldn't even entertain a conversation with that person. I think that's obnoxious.
Because what you're saying is then they need to prove to me they can win by winning without my support.
Say that again. Let me break it down.
What they're ultimately saying is, I won't give them any money or any support until they can prove to me that they can win without my support.
Oh, well, yeah. Good luck on that. Good luck on that. I mean,
But isn't that what we hear? I can't vote for this person because they can't win. Well, yeah, they can't win because you won't vote for them until they can prove their credentials to you.
Yeah. It's one of those things, and you're spot on. I mean, the thought process, in my opinion, that thought process is quite broken, because unless we actually want to make a difference, we have to put some faith in the people that we feel align with our values. And, I donated to, and I worked for free for, the Thielman campaign, because his values aligned with mine, and I thought he was a real winner, and I still do. But, and I don't regret that one bit. And even though he's not in the final running, he's not going to general. I took a risk on somebody, and I don't regret that. And so I feel like more people need to do that, because it's not always going to end up the way it did in Oregon. We have other issues. We're one of the only states that you can only vote by mail. So we have issues.
Wait.
Yes, only vote by mail in Oregon and Washington.
There's no on-site polling?
None.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not. We're completely.
That's law?
Yes, we're at their mercy. And it was a bipartisan law that was passed.
What, you mean to tell me that the Republicans sold out their base and went ahead along with it?
Yes, in the 90s. So it's been a while.
Well, I mean, which is, explains why Oregon and Washington went so far to the left.
Right. Exactly. So that's another thing. It's completely deflating knowing.
If you ask me, the best way to do this is from now on, there will be the only absentee voters will be law enforcement, or not law enforcement, military.
Right.
Deployed military.
Right. I know.
Like overseas, or out of the state, but with my residency still there. That's it. There will be no more absentee.
Right.
No more absentee voting. There will be no mail-in voting. That needs to be gone.
Right.
Gone.
It's an atrocity. And the other thing is, like, just so you guys know, I live in Clackamas County, Oregon, which is the third largest county in the state of Oregon. Oregon's big. It's big.
See, we have a lot in common. Did you just catch? You and I are both the third largest metro county. I worked in the.
Okay, but here's this. My ballot May 17th was our primary close date. My ballot has yet to be counted. So
well, at least you could track your ballot here in Minnesota. I don't think.
Yeah, I tracked it, and it's not counted because they had a lot of issues. So
No.
But regardless of that, I still get out there, and now I'm helping Southwest Washington right across the river from me. And so as much as it pisses me off, and I put so much energy into something, and my vote isn't even counted yet, and probably will never be counted, let's be honest, I'm still 100% involved in doing as much as I can on the other side of the river, because their primaries end on August 2nd. So as much as it's deflating, and as much as these last 2 years have been deflating, we have to keep fighting. I guess that's my main takeaway.
Do you think there's a white pill in all of this? Because there's red pill and there's blue pill and there's black pill, which are, I've oscillate, if you will, from black pilling and white pilling on a day-to-day.
What's a white pill? I don't even know.
White pill is where all of a sudden everything's rosy and wonderful and it's all going to work out. Oh. Do you see a white pill in all of this?
There's going to be blood before a white pill is even in play. Bloodshed, in my opinion. I mean, I think we have a war upon us.
Do you think that I think we're at war anyway, but do you think that that's a legitimate possibility if things keep tracking as hard to the left as they're tracking?
Absolutely.
Do you think it'll come through the auspices of gun confiscation, or do you think
That's what I was going to say. I do think that that'll be the catalyst for sure. It's going to
let's piss off a bunch of gun owners by telling them we're coming for their guns.
It's not happening here. We did have some idiots that were in Oregon after the shooting, and they that school shooting, that's a whole other topic. But
are you talking about Uvalde?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on that. But after that, there were people like turning in here in Oregon, going on camera, turning in their guns. And I'm like, you are a bunch of pussies. I can't even handle it. So,
all they did is they all went out and bought shotguns at their local.
Probably.
Just so they could turn in the gun that they never really owned anyway.
Yeah, on camera. So the local news will, look at this. Look at these folks.
Well, it's
disgusting.
I believe that there is a very high likelihood of it being being more than just a potential.
Yeah.
If they continue to push the narrative that we have to get guns out of the hands of the average American.
Right.
And I think that this push with red flag laws is telling. And I pointed this out to somebody today. We've got Republicans. Former Republican President Trump said, take the guns first, worry about due process later. One of those places where people get mad at me, but I'm like, well, let's just. That's what he said.
Yeah.
In the under the auspices of red flag laws, because they're supposedly protecting people. I'm not just contemplating, I'm planning a very short series where I talk about how former totalitarian regimes here in the world have used mental health as an excuse to secure their sanctity and their security,
right,
by labeling dissidents as mentally ill and
right,
forcing them into mental health facilities, if you will,
right,
and justify keeping them away from firearms.
Right. Salem witch trials, and just in a different shape and form and era.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the Soviets did it. They used mental health as an excuse for any dissident voice to lock them up. The Third Reich that did it after the fall of the Weimar Republic. It's telling that at the federal level, the feds knew that they couldn't with the current Supreme Court. And there again, Republicans playing ball with them, knew that they could not pass federal legislation for red flags, but they're funding red flag laws across the states. All 50 states. They're going to fund the enforcement of red flag. And we've seen this time and time again. When the feds decide they want something, but they know they can't do it at the federal state level, they push it down to the state and say, if you want funding for your roads, if you want funding for this program, if you want funding for that program, you have to get on board with this, or we're going to take your funding away.
Right.
And Republicans and Democrats across the board go, ooh, the feds are going to take the money away. What are we going to do? We better comply. Yeah. And I think that's how they're going to get it. And then that'll stretch down into local law enforcement agencies. And it's going to put a lot of cops and a lot of sheriff's deputies, a lot of officers in really bad decision-making positions where all of a sudden they have to stand up. They have to decide, am I going to stand up and am I going to take part in this?
Right.
Or am I going to say, screw this career, I'm going to go work at a pharmacy, or I'm going to go work at a McDonald's?
Yeah. We shall see. There's a lot of people that do things. They just say, well, I needed the paycheck to support my family. So there's those officers for sure.
Do you think that number's growing though? I mean,
yes, I would say so. I would say we're in
I saw it grow in my career. So
yeah, I would say it is, because I think about, even though the mandates, at least in this region, there's a bit of a lull, even though we are seeing them sprout back. It's sprouting back as a suggestion, not a mandate at this point in time. But during the mandates, we did see a lot of law enforcement officers that used the whole just doing my job. No, that doesn't work with me. So, but there are those out there, unfortunately, and there's a lot of military personnel out there also that will.
Well, they forced out all of the military personnel who had spine.
Right.
Not all. I don't want to paint with too broad of a brush.
Right.
But they have forced out a good chunk of them. And Biden wanted them dishonorably discharged. Which, by the way, with a dishonorable discharge, with some of the way some of the stuff is being written right now, could immediately put you on a list to not buy a gun.
Oh, lovely.
So, well, look at Idaho, which is kind of known to be a conservative state.
Very much so.
They had cops in Idaho arresting mothers at playgrounds.
Yeah, I saw that.
Outdoor playgrounds.
Yeah.
And then you get spokesmen for law enforcement across the country going, "We don't understand where our support has gone."
Right. I wonder. Wow.
Yeah,
no.
you got leftists that are mad at you, and you've got conservatives that are mad at you. You should be asking yourself the question of, who do I want on my side?
Exactly. I know. It's really bad. And you know what we saw in Portland was, the Antifa folks, they did a lot of damage in the city and did a lot of illegal things. And I can count on one hand the amount that were actually prosecuted, not just arrested. The arrests were incredibly low, but prosecuted. I can only think about 5 or less folks that actually were prosecuted for their crimes. But when
is it really that low? I mean, I hear that all the time. Well, yeah. Andy covers Portland a lot, right. And I know you know who Andy is.
Yes, I have his book right behind me.
And Andy's not a hard right conservative by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he doesn't fit the mold. He's openly gay. He's minority.
Yeah.
Always been kind of a little left of center. And look what they've done to Andy. They tried to kill him for just reporting accurately.
Multiple times.
Yeah, not just once.
Yeah.
But is it really that bad? Like, it's literally, you can count maybe 5 prosecutions.
Yeah. So we have the district attorney in Portland. Mike Schmidt is his name. And he is, he's almost as bad as New York City, where, they have that zero bail reform. And so their crime has just skyrocketed since that passed. Now, we don't have that specifically, but crime just isn't prosecuted here anymore. And that's why we see everything, including homicides, out of control here. There's just homelessness everywhere, drug needles, drug paraphernalia, people's catalytic converters stolen, hourly car thefts, carjackings, everything.
We have a Twitter account in Minnesota. It's Minnesota, or is it Twin Cities or Minnesota Crime Watch?
Oh, good.
And they're constantly reporting.
Yeah.
Constantly reporting catalytic converters. And I'm like, you and I are, okay. I'm old. Not you. I'm older than you. I'm going to go with that. I'm just going to run with that.
Wait. What's your birth year?
70.
Really? Yeah. You look so much. Are you serious? 70? Okay.
100%. Yeah, I am.
All right. I'm 81. I thought we were around the same age. So,
well,
whatever you're drinking.
I wouldn't have been old enough to babysit you, but I was creeping up on it. So.
That's funny. Okay. All right. So, yes, you are older than me.
But, like, the idea of somebody stealing a catalytic converter. Like what? Like, where did this come from? All of a sudden, but it's there.
I know.
The catalytic converters.
Yeah.
In like Minneapolis, St. Paul area, carjacking. They used to be rare. Now it's like you're lucky if you get only 5 a day.
Right.
Rochester, same town I was talking about earlier, same city I was talking about earlier, just released their new crime statistics. And the number of shootings and firearm-involved crimes with illegal firearms is on the uptick. I can't imagine why. And the good cops that are out there have their hands tied because they're being told not to enforce things. They're being told, don't take part in enforcing this stuff. Turn an eye. And now we've got sheriff's offices and whatnot across the country putting out executive orders for their staff saying, we're not going to be pulling people over for traffic violations anymore because we don't have the budget because everything's so expensive. So until we get emergency funding.
Right. I mean,
this couldn't all be calculated, could it, Kristin?
No, never. I know. It's really, really here. Nobody really wants to be in law enforcement anymore. And so, we're seeing this all over the nation, but staffing is down. Those that were eligible for retirement, who initially, before all this nonsense, had thought they would, work some extra years. They're like, screw this, they're out. So we have record numbers retiring, and that's in Clark County, Vancouver, Washington, right across the border from Portland, Oregon. We have that in Portland. So we have a major shortage of law enforcement officers. So really, to my knowledge, for both areas, Vancouver and Portland, it's basically 911 calls. That's what's being responded to.
Minneapolis is the same way.
Yeah, there's no proactive policing anymore, and I don't blame the officers.
I've interviewed two candidates for sheriff in Hennepin County, which is Twin Cities. Got Ramsey County and Hennepin County. So Hennepin County, two candidates for sheriff in Hennepin County, and one of them was flat out told me, like, right now, a 911 call for service in an actual emergency situation, 20 to 35 minutes.
Yeah, same. Of course, there's variables, time of day, yada yada. But
right, but still, average. That's an average. That's an average, which means there are times where it's a lot longer, and other times where it might be shorter.
Right.
Scary, pretty damn mind blowing.
We have to police ourselves. We just need to be prepared and able to defend ourselves, and we need to be diligent and mindful of our surroundings, and no longer can we live with the blinders on.
Yep, we've lived a comfortable life here in the U.S. for a very long time, and the last 2 years have, I think, to some degree, I'm encouraged in the sense that some people are really starting to be awakened. They're starting to see the truth of the situation of we're being played. But at the same time, a lot of people are now, because they feel like everything's gone back to normal.
Yeah.
They've kind of put their heads back in the sand and think, well, it won't happen again. It can't happen again. And like, come on, people, it can and it will. And you're part of the problem if you don't think it would. We've been at this. Well, I've been at it for a little over an hour. I really appreciate your time. So where can people catch you on a weekly basis?
Yeah.
And what time and what are all those platforms? I mean, I know where, but so that the viewers can hear.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, so I would say my most active platform that I'm on is Instagram, and that's just for the day-to-day posts. And so it's KSOK.lower48. So KSOK.lower48. And I respond to all my messages there, so feel free to message me. The other thing is, though, for my show, I am on ramtv.live, and we air, like you said earlier, on you're really a couple dozen networks, but ramtv.live, and I am every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, so your time zone. What is it? 7? And then 8 Eastern. And so, and then,
which is bedtime for most of the old people around here. So.
Yeah, so KSOK Uncensored, and
And how long are you? And you're live on Thursdays.
Live on Thursdays for a half an hour. And it's really cool because we bring on, like, my main thing is we the people. Mm-hmm. I don't always need somebody who's a creator. So like lately it's been a lot of local politicians just because it's primary season here. But I've had on a wide variety of folks, from Cafe Anderson, the country singer, to really your Joe Schmo next door who has a strong opinion on what is happening. So I just love a good conversation despite if they're a creator or not. So I always have someone interesting on.
And so you have a special studio for that, right?
No. No. I'm like, it's right here, baby. Right here. No, you know what's funny though? I am rolling out a business leadership podcast because I was in banking leadership for the past 20 years. I'm phasing out this summer. But I am building a studio in my garage because that podcast is my co-host is a serious author, and so that has to be done top notch. So, but no, as for right now, corner of my bedroom.
I got a friend who's like, "Hey, we could build you a studio," and I'm like, "What's wrong with my studio?" He's like, "Well, yeah, but your show's growing." I'm like, "What are you trying to say?"
Hint, hint. Yep. No, there's something to be said for like a really clean, like I really want like a really clean background with, I want, really good sound quality and whatnot. So I'm going to build that out. But for now, it's in the corner of my bedroom.
Isn't it funny how your life changes when you start something and you're like, I'm just going to do this for fun. And all of a sudden you're picked up and people are watching and paying attention. And
pretty awesome.
I don't have your subscriber base, but hey, so if anybody who subscribes and watches Kristin, I would love your subs, by the way. So
yeah, hey, I'll share this. I'll socialize this on all my stuff.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna get popular. I can't handle it. Okay. I'm to the point now where it's like people will recognize me now.
I don't really get that. Once in a while.
Well, it's mostly local. People will be like, I know you from somewhere. And I'm like, well, maybe from my last career. Like, have you ever been arrested? They're like, no. I'm like, I have a podcast. That's it. You're that guy with the beanie. And I'm like, that's how you know me? You know me for my beanie.
Oh my god.
So Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time.
Right.
The only time that matters. On ram.tv plus your Instagram. Say it for us one more time.
Yeah, it's KSOK, so KSOK .lower48.
Okay, and that's on Instagram.
Yeah,
and is there
those Facebook folks? It's just KSOK Uncensored. So
I couldn't find you on Facebook. Now I know why.
Yeah, I know. Not the same.
Give us a parting shot or thought. Give us a parting thought.
Well, here's what's fun. I was going to share. The only time I've ever been recognized was at the Reawaken tour, where General Flynn was at, Eric Trump, yada yada. But I took a break from all the speakers and I went and grabbed this amazing cheesecake. And I found this slab of concrete to sit on. So I'm just sitting there mowing down some cheesecake. And some woman walked by and's like, I know you. So it's just funny. Like the one time I'm ever recognized, I'm mowing on some cheesecake. So I thought that was kind of funny. But
that happened to me once. The guy goes, hey, I know you. We were from the jail. And I'm like, no.
You're like, re-clarify. Okay, here's what I will say though. On something like for people, stop self-censoring. I'm a huge advocate of waking people up in the fact that you are self-censoring every day. So every day that you are in a social setting and you feel like, maybe I shouldn't say that. Meanwhile, the other party is clearly speaking their views and opinions that are not with you. If you don't say anything and you don't follow up that you disagree, respectfully disagree, you are self-censoring and you're the problem. So that's my parting gift.
No, well, you had mentioned let's bring that up, but I kind of was trudging around it with talking about weak-kneed Republicans and whatnot because I knew that we would have mostly the same views on that. I can't thank you enough. If you ever need somebody, if you ever have a showtime where you've got nobody, I volunteer Skipper.
Oh, Skipper. Like I don't know who that is, but all right.
Mike from Veteran Nation.
Oh, I've never met Mike. Or you. Maybe I'll just hit you up. Now I have your number.
You do, don't you? I like putting Skipper on blast because he'll just like throw really bad jokes at me in the middle of the show, and I'm like, you'll see. You just watch sometime. You'll see.
Nice.
He just comes up with these really bad dad jokes, and I'm just like,
oh my gosh, it's good for you. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity, and for everyone tuning in, just thank you for even taking time out of your evening to listen to the
absolutely. Well, Kristin, thank you very much. You get out of here, go make dinner or have dinner or whatever it was you got going on for the night, and I'll do
some burgers. That's exactly what I'm doing.
I grilled burgers last night. Get out of here, kid.
All right, bye.
You have a good one. Thank you. Kristin, KSOK Uncensored, Right America Media, ram.tv. You can check her out on Thursday nights. I've watched her appear on other shows on RAM, and I've watched her videos, and she's sharp wit, sharp mind, and not afraid to tell the truth. And so we were going to talk about a particular thing that happened, like I said, on November of 2020. But we both have gotten some strikes, so we're going to just tread around that one real careful here just a little bit. Not for self-censoring, but there are other things we can be talking about. Once again, I've got a whole slate of people coming up for the show on Monday nights. I'm working on bringing on some more guests. If you're here in Minnesota, we're going to be working on bringing some people from the Minnesota GOP insiders some of the counties that are experiencing the corruption from the Minnesota GOP county parties and the Minnesota GOP state leadership. We're going to be working on bringing them on, setting up a time for that. We're going to be releasing the rest of the series about the USS Liberty and how it was attacked by Israeli military with the authority of the United States government, the powers that be, and exactly just how they were the sailors on the USS Liberty were sold out. If you haven't watched episode 1, please go and find that on the channel. Also, I'm going to be finishing my series on defining a good cop over the next I wouldn't say few weeks, but over the next week and a half. I'm going to be putting out that content live. Next episode, I'm going to really get down to defining what a good cop is. And it's not going to be what you think. And then I'm going to do an episode about what kind of impact good cops can have and why it's important that we have good cops. And then we're going to do a personal application of good cop something that happened in the agency that I worked for, the Olmsted County Sheriff's Office, and how there was a cover-up of the bad actions of a bad cop, and how that person was handled versus how I was handled. And then you will see that they're not interested in doing the right thing very often, especially in leadership. And so be watching for that. Once again, I'm still working on my Libertarian Lowdown series. My next confirmed guest is going to be Monica Perez from Deep Dives with Monica. If you haven't checked out Deep Dives with Monica yet for her podcast, you need to do it. She is phenomenal, and she is sharp, very sharp, and she's fiery, very fiery. She's a New York City type girl. And she's married. I think she's married to a Puerto Rican, so she gets the fiery Puerto Rican personality by marriage. But she's got a lot of really good information. So Deep Dives with Monica, be looking for her. She's going to be on live with me on July 30th, Saturday, July 30th. Once again, please go to Subscribestar and pick a level. I think I have 3 or 4 levels right now. I forgot how many I have at the moment. I would love for your monthly support. Once again, still working on trying to find time to put out the exclusive content for Subscribestar. But your support through Subscribestar helps even this keep going. Coffee, merch, any of this stuff, please, if you're interested, message me on Facebook, TC Pearson. Send me an email, tcpearson@protonmail.com. And stop holding your nose, folks. Stop voting because you just want to win. Start voting for the right person who represents you on an ethical level, on an intellectual level. Vote for the person who represents you on a worldview level. We have to get past this idea that we can only vote for the people that can win, because a lot of times when they do win, more often than not, they're also the most willing to sell you out. And we're seeing this play out in many places, but no place more than here in the state of Minnesota. So, like always, until next time, first of all, thank you for tuning in. Like, comment, share this, hit that super thank you if you're watching this on playback. Share this content with people so that people can see they're not alone. Fight for your liberty. Do not compromise on your beliefs. Stand strong. And until next time, Sic Semper Tyrannis.
We are going for liftoff in T-30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.